Have you ever wondered why people treat you the way they do? Why they interrupt you in the middle of a sentence, as if your opinion doesn't matter? Why they ignore you in groups? Look at you as if you were invisible. Remember everyone, except you. Why they mock your sensitivity, your pain, your choices? Or worse, why they use you, drain everything you have to offer, and then disappear as if you were just a tool? Maybe you are that person who is always available, who says yes even when exhausted, who stays silent to avoid conflict, who forgives too quickly even when no one has apologized. And what do you get in return? Contempt, indifference, silence. And do you know what the hardest part of all this is? It's that deep down, you feel you are not being respected, but you don't know how to break this cycle, and you keep accepting. You keep trying to be understanding, polite, helpful, hoping that one day people will recognize your worth, but that day never comes. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And maybe that's why you haven't broken this pattern yet, because respecting yourself requires something frightening, looking inward and admitting that you have a responsibility in this, that as long as you continue to ignore yourself, others will continue to do the same. This video will not give you ready-made phrases or treat you as a victim. It will show you the root of the problem, and it's much closer than you think. If you are tired of being disrespected by friends, family, partners, co-workers, it's time to understand why this happens. It's time to take control of your emotional life. Here, we will dive into Jung's deep psychology to reveal why you tolerate the intolerable and how to change that once and for all. Because as long as you keep betraying yourself, no one will treat you with dignity. Are you ready to hear what you've never had the courage to say to yourself? The world around you is not as chaotic as it seems. It is, in fact, a brutal reflection of your psyche. And this is something that few have the courage to face. Do you think people disrespect you because they are bad, selfish, cold? Maybe. But what you don't want to admit is that they are just reacting to how you position yourself, or rather to how you do not position yourself. Because when you remain silent in the face of injustice, when you accept being treated as something lesser, you are communicating something. This is how I see myself. This is how I allow myself to be treated. Carl Jung believed that external reality is a mirror of the unconscious. Everything you attract, the abuses, the dismissals, the painful silences, are largely symbolic manifestations of how you relate to repressed parts of yourself. As long as you do not recognize your own worth, you project a distorted, fragile, insecure image onto the world, and it is this image that others see, and they treat it exactly as it presents itself. The issue here is not to blame you, it is to awaken, because the root of the disrespect you feel from others may lie in the silent pacts you have made with yourself throughout your life. Perhaps you learned as a child that being good meant staying silent, that being accepted required always yielding, that love was synonymous with submission. And now, as an adult, these scripts continue to run in the back of your mind, guiding every choice, every relationship, every swallowed word. You have internalized the idea that your worth depends on the validation of others. And this silent belief contaminates everything. You position yourself as someone inferior, not out of malice, but out of habit, an unconscious, deep-rooted habit. And as long as you do not bring this to the light of consciousness, the cycle will not stop. You can change cities, jobs, relationships, but the pattern will persist because it lives within you. Jung said that what is not brought to consciousness manifests as fate. So, until you face how you see yourself, you will continue to live experiences that reinforce your own invisibility. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve, even if that belief is hidden in the unconscious. but there is a way out. However, it starts at the most uncomfortable point. You will need to stop seeking respect outside and start building it within. And this leads us to a question that few ask themselves, but which defines the course of your entire emotional life. Why are you still trying to prove your worth to others? This is what we will talk about in the next part. You spent your life trying to prove that you are enough, trying to be the ideal child, the ideal partner, the friend who never fails, always bending, adjusting, molding yourself to fit others' expectations. And what did you get in return? Momentary approval, yes, but never genuine respect. Because those who live to please will inevitably be seen as someone who can be manipulated. This is the trap of external validation, one of the most cruel and invisible aspects of the human psyche. Carl Jung taught us that the persona, the social self, the mask we wear to be accepted, is necessary but dangerous. Because if you identify too much with it, you forget who you really are. And when that happens, you disconnect from your essence. You become a polite ghost, a presence that pleases everyone, but that no one truly respects. The desire to be accepted is legitimate. It is part of human nature. The problem arises when this desire becomes the compass of your identity. When you start measuring your worth by others' reactions. A compliment lifts you up, a criticism destroys you, and thus your self-esteem becomes hostage to the gaze of others. You strive to be useful, necessary, indispensable, because deep down, you believe you will only be respected if you are absolutely flawless. But the truth is brutal. The more you try to prove your worth, the more you confirm to the world that you don't believe in it. People who respect themselves do not beg for attention. They do not do favors expecting love in return. They know who they are, and that is enough. They do not need to sacrifice themselves to be seen, nor do they need to nullify themselves to be liked. They are not afraid of displeasing, because they understand that displeasing is sometimes the price of living with integrity. But to reach that point, it is necessary to break with a deeply rooted idea that you need to earn others' respect. You do not need to. What you need indeed is to rebuild the respect you lost for yourself, perhaps years ago, perhaps always. Only then does the gaze of others cease to be a threat and becomes just a reflection. But this requires a choice, and this choice almost always begins with an act that seems simple, but is frightening for those trapped in the cycle of approval: saying no. In the next part, we will talk about this decisive moment when you start to set boundaries and, for the first time, place yourself at the center of your own life. Because respect begins exactly there. When you learn that no can be the most powerful gesture of self-love. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. You have been conditioned to believe that being a good person means never contradicting anyone. That loving is sacrificing yourself. That those who set boundaries are selfish, cold, insensitive. And because of this, every time something bothers you, you swallow it. Every time someone crosses your boundaries, you stay silent. Every time you are hurt, you forgive even before the other person realizes the damage. You believe you are being mature, balanced, compassionate. But in reality, you are nullifying yourself. Little by little, day by day, you are disappearing from yourself. The problem is that the world does not respect those who do not respect themselves. And respect is not asked for, not begged for, not negotiated. Respect is imposed. And this imposition does not need to be violent, aggressive, or vengeful. It needs to be firm, clear, and non-negotiable. And this starts with a word you are probably afraid to use: no. Saying no is the first concrete act of self-respect. It is when you communicate to the world and to yourself that there are boundaries that will not be crossed, that your energy is not for sale, that your time is valuable, that your well-being matters. But to reach this point, you need to break free from guilt, because it will appear. Whenever you say no to someone who is used to exploiting you, guilt will eat away at you. It will make you doubt your decision. It will try to drag you back to the place where you always gave in. Carl Jung reminds us that the process of individuation, the path to becoming who you really are, requires confrontation. And one of the first confrontations is with that version of yourself that learned to survive by saying yes to everything. That version that believes pleasing others is the only way to be accepted. But this acceptance comes at a very high cost: your personal value, your dignity, your identity. Do you want to be respected? Then start by saying no, where you used to say, sure. Start refusing tasks that suffocate you. Start distancing yourself from relationships that drain you. Start ignoring invitations you accept out of obligation. And notice, the first to be bothered will be those who exploited you the most, because your limit will expose their abuse, and that hurts both them and you. But it is a necessary pain. You need to understand that every time you say no to the world, you are saying yes to yourself. And that yes is the beginning of something powerful, the rebirth of your own authority, the recovery of your voice, the start of a new way of existing, a way that no longer depends on the permission of others. But there is an even deeper reason that prevents you from setting boundaries, and it is hidden in the parts of your psyche that you refuse to look at. It is in your shadow, in the aspects you have repressed, denied, and tried to bury, but that continue to govern your life in silence. In the next part, we will dive deeper. We will talk about how your shadow feeds submission, and why, as long as you do not integrate what is hidden, you will continue to accept what is unacceptable.